Hey everybody, Mike Pfeiffer with Pfeiffer Hobby Supply, and today we're going to do the actual update 85. Okay, the first thing I want to get into, and it's not train related, but I'm going to, if you've watched some of my videos, there one in particular, you know that we had a problem with our Lincoln. I'm going to get into here what has transpired and what's going on and where that left off, and maybe it'll be of interest to some of you and maybe it's not. It's not going to be a rant or anything like that about Lincoln, but let me tell you what's going on. Okay, as most of you know, when Robin decided to buy a new car, she bought a Lincoln Nautilus 2019. We've had the car 2 years. It has 4,300 and some miles on it. In that time, it's been in the shop 3 times. 2 times they replaced the one of the oxygen sensors. And this last time, it took 5 weeks to get a Lincoln loaner, for them to get a Lincoln loaner to give us while our Lincoln was in the shop. Now it has almost been in there 9 weeks. I don't need to go into the whole thing, but it has evolved into replacing the wiring harness under the engine of the car, in the engine compartment of the car. And they keep promising day after day after day that we were going to get it back. We've been very tolerant to this. We did some investigating, found out that we could file for the lemon law here in New Mexico. As opposed to doing that, we went down to the Lincoln dealer that we bought it at, and we told them that due to the problems they're having with the car and the length of time it's taking, said what we propose is we'll give you our Lincoln, or let you have our Lincoln back, and we will put some cash forward and we will buy a new Lincoln. A new Nautilus, a 2020 Nautilus with a V6 and all-wheel drive, and they had one in the color of ours with the same color interior, but it was V6 and all-wheel drive. They came back offering us a ridiculously low amount of money at all for our car, and we were offering them a sum of money on top of our car for the new car. And granted, they were far apart, kind of far apart. But we were kind of expecting them to go and negotiate this, and then we would pay up a little more, or they would bring the price down a little more, and just to keep us as Lincoln customers. Well, that didn't happen. They said this is our price and that's it, and that's all we're doing. And it was a third of the price. They were giving us a third off the price that we paid for the car, is all they were willing to offer us. So we left it at that, and we thought, well, if we get our car back, I'll file a Better Business Bureau complaint, which will lead to the buyback program through the lemon law. So one afternoon, I pulled BBB up on the computer rather, and started filling out the information. Well, I found out I needed all the service work. I didn't have that, so I called the dealership. I asked the service guy. I said, "Can you send me the information of all the repairs," which they call an OASIS sheet, and I'm not going to tell you how I know that, but believe me, I've gotten help from outside this dealership. I said, "Can you give me the OASIS sheet on our Lincoln?" He said, "Yeah, I'll email it to you." Well, I waited and waited and waited and waited, and no email. Finally, I called again that afternoon, somewhere around 4:30, and I said, can you see what happened? I didn't get the information. So he says, "Yeah, let me check it out. I'll send it right over to you." Nothing. 5 o'clock, still was no email. Or maybe 4:45, no email. I told Robin, I said, "I don't know how to handle this." She says, "Well, the way to handle it is get in the car, go down there and get the information out of our car, and get the things out of our car, our personal items out of the car. Because if it's going to live down there, I don't want them to have all that stuff." So I drove down there. They did allow me in the shop. Unfortunately, they had the battery out of the car and the whole engine compartment torn apart. And on that Lincoln, you can't open the glove box without the battery attached because it uses a push button to open the glove box. So we couldn't get in the glove box, get the paperwork. So the service guy had really no choice but to print it out for me right there, which he did. And meanwhile, my salesman, not the salesman we had talked to about the negotiating on the new car, but our salesman that sold us our car, I had called him as well about a day or two in advance, and I said, can you do anything about this? Can we negotiate this? Because we'd like to stay a Lincoln customer. We have no problem with the car. It's just that we don't trust the existing car we have to go any long distance because we just don't have faith in the car. And they said, we'll pony up and we'll buy a different one. They wouldn't even negotiate. And when I went to get that paperwork, my salesman stood there with his hands in his pocket and just stared at me like this as I walked out the door and never said a word to me. It made me very angry. I don't get angry very, well, I get angry often, but I'm not on camera. But anyway, I was angry. I left there, I got in my Mustang, I drove directly to the Cadillac dealer, which was 2 blocks away. I went inside to talk to the man in there, or talk to someone in there and say, look, this is the deal. Explained all this to him. He said, do you have the VIN number of your car? And even though it's in the shop, I said, yes, I do. I gave it to him because I had the paperwork. He did some looking on the computer, and they basically, if you can imagine this, they basically offered me $10,000 more than Lincoln did on my car, sight unseen, on her car. So because we were planning on trying to do the buyback because we were sick of trying to deal with them, Robin had already looked at Cadillacs online, and her mom and dad always had Cadillacs, and she decided that she liked the looks of the Cadillac XT5, which is the similar car to Lincoln's Nautilus. It's the same size car, same kind of features, same kind of, and we'll get into that. Pardon me. But nevertheless, he said, well, when you guys decide, just come down and take a look at one of the XT5s. Well, I knew, it's a small Cadillac dealer here. The big one is in El Paso. But I knew they didn't have very many. They only had 2 or 3. One was used. So I said, yeah, we'll come back down and look at them. So we made an arrangement. We went back down to look at them. And I knew the lady I had spoken to, the sales lady that he had referred me to and that I had spoken to, said, you know, we've only got some dark colored ones. I told her I was looking for a white one. We were looking for the Cirrus or white sandstone, whatever they have inside, light color. And she said, okay. But she said, I only have a 2020, and the 21, they've made some improvements, they've made some changes, blah, blah, blah. So we made we made, not an appointment, but we made a schedule to go down there and look at one and drive one. Got there, and lo and behold, they had a white one, pearl white one, just like her Lincoln, that they had just pulled off the truck. Still had the plastic on the seats, on the steering wheel. I mean, it was still as it came off the truck. And she pulled the plastic off the seats and stuff. We sat in it, we started it up and everything. She said, if you like this one, come back and tomorrow and you can drive it. I'll have them service it and you can drive it. So anyway, trying to shorten up the story. It has what they call a Kona brown interior. We looked at Kona brown interiors online and they look orange, and she said, I'm not having no orange interior. Well, when we actually looked at it, and you'll even see when I show you what I'm going to show you, but it kind of looks orange anytime you photograph it, but it is not orange. It is a very light rust brown color, okay? And anyway, she looked at the interior. When she saw the interior in person, she liked it, and she said, I really like that car. And the more we thought about it, even before we went to drive it, the more we liked that car, and liked the fact that they talked to us and would work with us. They were even willing for us to sign, because since we had the title, to sign over the title to them, leave our loaner car at their lot, which I wouldn't do because we signed for that car. But they said if they don't get it fixed over there, we'll take your title. If you sign it over to us and buy this car, we'll go get it and we'll bring it over here and have our guys fix it at our shop. I said, well, whatever it takes. I mean, you know, anyway, it worked out. So the following day we go down, we drive the car. The crux of it is, obviously, we bought it. The sad thing is we spent almost as much money on the Cadillac as if we would have if we had paid up full price, their full price that they wanted for the Lincoln. However, the Lincoln was a year older. You know, it was a 2020. The Cadillac's a 2021. And we decided that regardless of how much money it is or anything, that we were going to not deal with our dealer. And I won't name the dealer, but we would not deal with our dealer. They just didn't want to talk to us. They didn't care whether we were a Lincoln customer again. They didn't care they didn't seem to care anything about us. So, that being said, we bought a Cadillac XT5. I still have the Lincoln loaner. My car's still in the shop, and we will see how that goes. We were supposed to, they promised that they were going to have it ready 3 days ago, which would have been last Friday. 3 working days, that would have been last Friday. Not a call today, nothing. Anyway, that's enough of that ranting and raving, but let me just show you real quick the Cadillac, and then we'll move on to the model trains. Is that okay? I hope. Okay, I'm in the garage because it's dark outside. I didn't decide to do this video until this evening, but here is the Cadillac amongst the garage. She likes the look of it, and it's got pretty much most of the stuff the Lincoln had. Lincoln has some things the Cadillac doesn't have, and vice versa, but pretty much everything. What I will tell you about this is the Lincoln we were looking at was all-wheel drive V6 as opposed to the EcoBoost 4. It was a twin-turbo V6. This car is a V6 non-turbo all-wheel drive with selectable two-wheel drive. So you can put it in tour mode and drive with it in two-wheel drive for fuel economy if you don't need the four-wheel drive. So that's kind of advantageous. Let me just walk down it here. I know it's just a Cadillac XT5 that everybody's probably seen. Here's the back of it. It's a sport model, which means the blacked out trim and the clear lenses on the tail lights. And one cool thing that Cadillac does is they hide the windshield wiper up underneath the spoiler. Now maybe in some parts of the country that doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's advantageous in 2 ways. One is it doesn't get ice and snow on it if you have any, which we don't have much of. But out here the sun rots the windshield wiper blade. So having it up under there protects the windshield wiper blade. And I'm just going to briefly show you the inside. No sense in going over and over and over this, but here's the inside and the Kona brown, and I can't really get back far enough to get the whole thing in, but basically this is the dash arrangement and the inside of the Cadillac. It's got the full sunroof just like the Lincoln did. The one thing that this car doesn't have that the Lincoln had was the Lincoln had the surround camera. This does not have the surround cameras, the 360 camera stuff. Really, other than that, there's nothing significant that it doesn't have. But just to let you guys know that this is where we're at. When our car gets fixed, we are going to take the loaner back, pick up our Lincoln, or Cadillac's Lincoln, whichever way you want to look at it, and drive our car over to Cadillac and turn in the loaner car, and it will all be a done. Well, it's a done deal. I mean, we already own this car, but that being said, that's how it's going to work. So that's about it on the Cadillac, and now I'll go inside and show you what I've been working on in there, and hopefully it's enough that you feel like you saw something besides me rambling on about the car. Okay, since we filled this all up with car stuff, I'm just going to go over real briefly. I haven't spent a whole lot of time out here, but I will show you the things that I have done. The first thing that you may not notice is the person on the bicycle or the scooter, whatever that is over there. I put some cars at the liquor distributor as well as 2 people on the walking out of the place and some people sitting on a bench outside. I've also added 2 guys talking on the dock and a couple of barrels with a shelf on top, and you guys already had seen the forklift. Also, I think I had the ballast done along the edge. I put a truck in here I did put the asphalt, Arizona rock asphalt in there, so that a truck can back up to there and load, as well as the front of the building, as the Blatz truck is doing. Now we can move to the box company. I haven't really done anything to this building. It was already pretty much equipped, except for the ballast in front of the building. The grass was in between the buildings there. What I did do is I added some ballast along the front of the chemical plant. I added a guy standing underneath the light fixture over there, and I added a guy sitting on the dock over here. I know that's not much, but where I'm going now is where I spent most of my time. I cut out a parking lot here from tar paper for the chemical plant, T-Leary. I put in a grade crossing there, and then I put a ramp down to the street. And of course, when they did the ramp, they had to patch out the street. My mistake, actually, I had to patch out. But anyways, put some dirt in front of the chili distributor. Put some ballast along the fence and along the front of the chili distributor. Put some grass in between the chili distributor and the chain link fence. Put ballast in between the tracks along here. And as you can see, I lost some ballast down through there somehow. Went down a hole or something. I'll have to fill that in. Touch that up, put some ballast in here with a little bit of dirt and stuff, and stopped, obviously, right there. So, I have not put in a street light or two, which I plan on doing here, but I don't think I'm going to do any of that until I get the houses mounted. And I think the houses is the next thing I may work on. But this area here did get some sprucing up and some more finishing than what it had, and is pretty much as it's going to be. So let's see, that being said, let me move down here to the other end a little ways and I'll show you what's going on. Okay, down here at the turntable, you may not notice anything, but I will explain to you what I've done. I put a guy over here that's the operator of the turntable, standing on the turntable. I've got two guys here having a discussion with each other on around the outside of the turntable. The one gentleman has a toolbox there, and he was taking some parts out of that steam locomotive there, or out of the parts pile there. And then back there you can see a couple of guys by the orange cone that I put in there. And that little guy over there was already there. So basically here, all I did was add some people to make it look like there's something going on around here. I'm going to tell you what I am thinking about. I'm thinking about cutting the fascia down a little bit right here and straight over. And where this tree is, I may take that out, and I may fill all that in with parking lot and put some Santa Fe vehicles in here. Because there's really no place where the guys would enter to work here. So I think the edge of the layout would be an ideal place to have cars and Santa Fe trucks and stuff parked there that would be going to work and work at the roundhouse and at the turntable. Now I'm going to back up just a little tiny bit. I finally decided to make this switch tower permanent here. So I added a gentleman standing on the landing, and it is now in place. However, I can remove it to put a light inside of it or a light on the outside of it, which I will likely do at some point in time, just not right now. But that is going to be its permanent home. I have not moved the caboose back that I had to move to weather up the ballast there that it's sitting up on. Aside from that, I want to do just a slight bit of talking about my area over here where the city is. Okay, there's nothing going on here. And why is that, you ask? Because I'm just not happy with it. I started developing these grandiose plans for this. And I'm having trouble running trains through there. They don't want to cooperate. They don't, it just doesn't operate very well to have operations going on there, and it's too sloped downhill over here to get into the tunnel that goes out into the garage. I'm just going to ask you guys if you think I ought to continue with this, and or my other idea was to do this as total desert. Paint over that backdrop or take that backdrop down. Put a desert, open desert backdrop there, and just put one loop there to turn the trains around coming out of my my branch line, instead of having a whole poop load of switches, which have been problematic in the few times I've tried to run this. But I overcomplicated it, and for the function that it is supposed to do. I suppose I could leave a loop in there and do the city, but I'm thinking I would much rather have desert there. I'm just not into cities. And while I built all these buildings, not all these buildings were basically built, but I built the stockyard and built the fertilizer plant and everything specifically for this. It would not hurt my feelings to take them off of here. We can always use them at the fairgrounds. I may consider leaving the cattle pens out here. They did have cattle pens in the middle of nowhere in the desert out here. As you know, I have the lava sign on my wall back here behind me. And Lava, New Mexico was actually in the middle of stinking nowhere, near a volcanic eruption site. There's just absolutely nothing there. But anyway, they had cattle pens there. I just don't know. I'm just not happy with burying all this wire and all this complicated track work, and how much would I use this. What I really need is a place to reliably turn a train around and come back into my branch line. So anyway, I guess one of the reasons I've been so lethargic about working on the layout is I'm just up in the air about this whole thing here, and I just don't know what to do, what I want to do. So that being said, if you guys have any opinions, maybe just share them a little bit. I don't know if I'll listen to them, but I'll certainly take them into consideration. But my brain is telling me to take all this stuff off of here and basically just have a loop, one single loop that goes around there. And that loop may even contain part of this yard track here, as opposed to being a loop by itself and having a turnout, having the turnout back in there. Not real well about that idea either. So we'll see how it goes and see what I come up with in my head. It has been a struggle for me to get out here in the train room and really do anything, because we've been concentrating on the I know a lot of people don't think that probably don't have the problem I have, but the car issue has just been driving us crazy. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this and give me some feedback on this, and we'll talk to you next time. Okay, everybody, hope you enjoyed this update. Hope it wasn't too long, too boring, any of that stuff. I always say that, but I hope you enjoyed it. And as usual, thanks for watching.